problem isn't the problem, you need somebody like Haley in your life. Her completely holistic approach to guiding entrepreneurs on a success journey often takes them into a very risky and personal conversation, but she does so with grace and tact and a level of care that I rarely see in business coaches. Most want to get right to the business of the business, but Haley is very different. She can, with firm and caring encouragement, get you or your admin staff to a place where they can become a force multiplier for a business owner. We got a chance to talk about her most common observations on how to dig deep in order to fly high. So conventions are usually scary for me as an introvert, and the Las Vegas EXP Con was very big. It was very lots of like show horses being paraded around. Not a lot of, I did meet Carrie there, and that's how we met, through Carrie.
Yeah, through Carrie.
And that was really great just to make that personal connection. And there was a few others, but this one, there's been so many more people
Right.
that I've been able to, it's just so much more chill here.
That too. And here's the thing, like if you work virtually, like I see a lot of these people every week, but I've never met them in person. And so it's just such a cool experience. And then, like I said, to be fully present with someone, connect with them, like see them in action. It's just amazing. I love it. I just love it.
Now you do coaching on Zoom.
Yeah.
So how do you make those personal connections over Zoom? Like, are you able to? Do you feel like you are?
I feel like I am, because we typically, a coaching client, they start out with wanting coaching or training around something specific. And we do get there. Such as like operations, hiring someone, mindset, lead generation, a variety of different things. Sometimes it's focused on just helping them level up their business.
Okay.
And so their intention is to come in and either train or do some coaching to help them level up their life and business. But it's really important for me to set the expectation with any coaching client that your business is a direct reflection of you as a person. So how much are you willing to grow yourself in order to grow your business? Because we have to look at a holistic approach first. We have to look at you and what are you attaching yourself to as far as your limiting beliefs go, because that's what's holding you back. And so we have to identify those to help have a breakthrough so that we can create organizational structure, so that we can create the life that you want for your business and for your personal life. But we have to shine a light on those things. So I hope that I can create a space, and I feel like I do, where people can come in, they're not being judged, and they can be authentically themselves, and they are seen and heard and able to talk about things that they haven't been able to share before.
It hasn't been safe for them to do that. You make people feel real safe.
Yeah, they're given permission. They're given the permission that they need.
That's interesting. Why do you think we need permission to let go and be ourselves in front of somebody?
That would be like a whole day long conversation.
Yeah.
So I really do believe that we have been, all of us, we are conditioned, our behavior is conditioned based on our life experiences. What our mom wants from us, or our dad, our family, our friends, our teachers, our church, right? We are naturally tribal people, and so we want to fit in. And we learn very, very early on what to do to fit in, to feel accepted.
In fact, we have to contribute in order to fit in, because that's the tribe. If we're not contributing, the tribe doesn't succeed, and people look at us like, why are you not contributing?
Oh, 100%. So in order to not feel left out, we will go out of our way to show up the way that we think everyone else wants us to show up. Instead of being our authentic self.
Showing up the way we can.
Yes. With our own gifts and our own talents. And so we don't give ourselves permission to be ourselves. And that's actually what leads to burnout. It's what leads to doubt and to guilt and to imposter syndrome, because you're not actually leading from your heart. You're leading from the mind because you want to fit in.
You just unpacked like 7 different conversations out of your backpack right there. This is you. I knew this is what this would be like. There's so much. We could have 8 of these.
We could
do a series. We could totally do a series.
Let's do it.
So let me back up a little bit. And I always like to talk about the way we met. And so we met through a mutual friend and business acquaintance, Carrie Briner.
Yep. Hey, Carrie.
And you sort of showed up with her. What were you doing for her to begin with? back then?
So Carrie and she had hired me to help her with her operations.
Okay.
She said, Haley, I really, really need operations support. And I said, Carrie, I'm not really sure if I want to continue to do that. And so here's the thing. I was very, very transparent with her from the beginning, letting her know that I wasn't sure I wanted to do executive assistant support and operations support. And she was so supportive of that.
Man,
She was like, absolutely. Like, let's get you out of this role as soon as possible.
which
And
is odd. Sorry to interrupt, because you were so good at it. Like,
yeah, but just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it.
I know, but it was my first impression of you, and it's how I pigeonholed you in the world. And I was like, okay, so here's this, kick butt admin person that's running Carrie's business, and very impressive right out of the gate.
Thank you.
First impressions of you, very intelligent, very detailed, and very present and aware. Your awareness, emotional awareness is very high. I noticed that about you, and that's very rare with
Thank you.
people. And so sure, I started liking some of your stuff and watching some of your marketing that you put out there, and it was like super quality and nourishing and deeper than what I think most people go and where they post. Not that it's bad.
Yeah.
It was just more risky. I don't think people are as courageous as you are with some of your stuff. But see, that's the thing. I think you really hit people right in the gut with your stuff, without your ability and courage to post the things that matter to you, and whether it's you've experienced it or witnessed someone who's experienced it,
Yeah.
you're putting it out there in a way that people connect with, that is necessary. And I've always found you to be a kindred spirit in that regard.
That's very kind of you. Here's the thing about that. I have been on the journey of needing to give myself permission to be myself because my background came from perfectionism, and perfectionism was my trauma response.
You were a perfectionist?
I was. I was a perfectionist, and I felt like by being a certain way and showing up a certain way, I would receive the love that I was neglected in my life.
Okay.
So for me, it was a trauma response.
Okay.
And if I wasn't showing up this way that I believed was perfect, I wasn't enough and I wouldn't be loved.
If you
And
weren't
so
perfect.
if I wasn't perfect, now we all know that there's no such thing as that,
Wow.
right?
Yeah. What a tough way to grow up or get
Yeah,
through life.
it was. And here's the thing, like so many people suffer through this, and I don't even think we realize that it's a way of shielding ourselves. I had to give myself permission to no longer need to be perfect. It served me at one point in my life. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I got great grades in high school, great grades in college, and I was dying in the inside. Like on the inside, no matter what I did, it was never enough. Now I'm a high achiever. High achievers don't need to be perfectionists though. But for me, I had to give myself permission to finally let go of the identity that I had created for myself. My identity wasn't the identity that came from God or from my gifts or from the universe, whatever you believe. My identity was formed because I thought that that's what my friends wanted, what my mom wanted, what my grandma wanted, what my dad wanted, what my church wanted. I was living a life based on what I thought would get me the furthest. I wasn't being authentically who I was. I had to give myself permission to expand my identity.
So what happened? How did you realize that? And how did you get liberated from that?
It took a lot of self-reflection. I don't think that there was any like one pivotal moment, but I did realize that over time, being self-aware of every time I showed up, like feeling in the pit of my stomach, like intuitively, this is not me. Like, I hate this. But I'm saying yes to this person and yes to this project and yes to this person and yes to my husband and yes to my kids because what I wanted, what I really truly wanted was to know that I was enough. And so I had to say yes to all of the things in my life because if I said no, I wasn't enough. And if I'm not enough, I won't be loved. And so I had to recognize the pattern that I had and say, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's painful. It's a daily practice. I don't think that there's ever any true arrival. I think it's a daily choice to call yourself out and say, like, am I living purposefully? Am I living with intention? Am I doing what I'm meant to be doing today?
Was there a serendipitous moment? Was there a evening under the stars? Was there a roller coaster you went on? Was there something that happened and you were like, okay, I'm going to live differently? This is because usually a decision is made
Yeah.
to live a different way. Like, when was that decision made? Do you remember?
Yeah, without hurting feelings, I get like a little nervous sharing it, but
Okay. You don't have to.
no, it's fine. Because the thing is I feel like probably so many people have experienced the same thing. But for me, it was, I always had a lot of resentment toward my mom. God bless her. I know she's going to listen to this. We've had this conversation, so that's why I feel okay talking about it. I had a lot of resentment for her because I never felt like I received the love from her that I wanted or that I needed, right? And I had an expectation of my mom growing up that she should be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
When I had my daughter, almost 11 years ago now, I made a choice. Like one day I was at home and I was a stay-at-home mom for 7 years. And I remember someone telling me, like, if you want to be the best version of yourself, if you want to be the best mom that you can be, you can only do that if you forgive your mom. And here's the thing, like, I already felt like I had forgiven her. Like, she loved me the best that she could.
Mm-hmm.
But here I am saying, I want more from you. I want more from you. And so I had to forgive her for that. Recently, probably about a year ago, I met with a coach and she said, Haley, you've forgiven your mom, but have you forgiven yourself? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Why would I forgive myself? I haven't done anything. And she said, forgiving yourself for having expectations of not only your mom, but other people in your life to be different than what they are. And who are you, Haley, to tell someone that they should be more in this world than what God created them to be? Who are you to do that? How do you know that they're not living exactly how they need to live because they need to learn a lesson or they're going to impact somebody else? And here you are saying, I have this expectation of you to show up this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my, it was like a mind-blowing experience.
You know, it's so interesting. A good friend of mine grew up with an alcoholic father and guy who wasn't maybe present emotionally, but was more of a buddy than a dad. And so he'd go to the bars and get drunk, and then my buddy would have to come along with him and drive him home at like 14. And
Wow.
so he's like one of the 5 guys you want on your end of the world team, your zombie apocalypse team. Like, can literally fix anything, build anything, shoot any gun. Just,
Yeah, love it.
He's like the total mountain man. But he's that way because of his dad. And he's proud of who he is. And I think his only regret is that he just wanted more of that special time that he missed out on with his dad. Then there's no way his dad could give it to him because of whatever it was that his dad hadn't dealt with in his life.
Yeah.
And so I think the older I get, the more I let go of those expectations of the way, upbringing should be, and try to at least focus on the things that you do have. My dad worked shift work. So he worked third shift 2 weeks out of the month. So half of the month we never saw him.
Right.
Because we were coming home from school and he was gone and everybody had to be quiet because he was home sleeping. And it was just one of those things where we didn't see him often. So his thing was always, quality time, not quantity time. And so that quality time has really become one of my 5 love languages, one of the 5. And it's the one that I dearly need the most just because of, I think humankind is now starting to wake up to the fact that our childhoods need to be released if we're going to be effective, adults.
Yeah.
And it's good of you to coach that way and to help liberate people one by one. And Kelly did some coaching with you, and she just raved over you and the way that you coached. And I knew that it would be because it was fascinating to me. You showed up in this sort of operations role, but then one day we were talking about disc profiles and stuff, and you're like a D or an I.
I'm a DI, yeah.
And so I am too. And I was like, as a DI, I'm looking at you thinking, she's not acting like one of us, She's acting like a CS. She's acting like an admin. And like, how can you do that? And somebody said to me one time as I was growing my business, they're like, Jeramie, you shouldn't be doing both. You shouldn't be the visionary and the operations person of your business, but I had no choice.
Right.
So I can act in that way, not to the capacity that you could. There's no way I could be an operations person. But it requires so much of my energy, so much of my brain. Is it the same for you, or is it natural for you to work both sides of your brain?
Honestly, it's been natural for me because when I work on other people's businesses, I feel like I just pour into it. Like it's very easy for me to be the executor. So like I can identify the holes and the gaps in the business and in your life. A lot of times we kind of need someone else to show up and be like, okay, if this is what your business is looking like, how are you as a person? Like what's going on with you that we got here? We have to solve all of the pieces of the puzzle, right? Because you're a reflection of your business. And so we have to shine a light on those. And then we can go in and say, okay, structurally, here's what we could be doing. Here's the strategy. I can give you the strategy, but you're not going to implement the strategy or follow through with any of the things that we talk about implementing wise. If you're not fixing, nobody really needs to be fixed, but if you're not shining a light on yourself, if you're not willing to take a look at what's motivating me not to do that, or what are my biggest limiting beliefs? What are my personal challenges? Like, what is my mindset around this? We have to ask ourselves that, you know? It's funny that you mentioned like your zombie apocalypse group of people because I recently joined a powerlifting gym.
Yeah.
I joined a powerlifting gym because I desperately am like at a place where I really want to be like mentally fit and personally fit. Like I want my body to be fit at like my mind.
I saw your Facebook post where you were like upset
Yes.
because you didn't want to go. So the
100%.
trainer wasn't going to be there or
Yes.
something, but you were going anyway.
Yes.
And it was interesting to me. It was courageous and also interesting to me that it was such an emotional thing for you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, and actually being that vulnerable, that's the post I've had the most views and comments on.
Yeah.
So the story is I joined this this powerlifting gym.
We all know what it is. There's only one out there.
So I joined this powerlifting gym and I got a personal trainer and I also got a nutritionist because I was like, I'm fed up with like,
Yeah.
I want to show up physically strong and mentally
Why do
strong.
you want to do that?
Because honestly, Jeramie, if there was a zombie apocalypse, I don't want to be the person that holds everyone back and gets them dead because I can't swing a sword. That is the number one.
Because you would run out of bullets, so you have to swing the sword. So are you taking any sword training then?
No, but I feel like if I can lift the
First things first.
yeah, like I have to get strong enough to hold the sword.
Right.
I don't know about swinging it. We'll get there later. Okay, that's the step 2. So I had gotten this personal trainer and we're like 3 weeks in. And that's my accountability. Like this person, I'm showing up for this person. Okay. So this is my coach. And he's like, I'm going out of town. I was like, how dare you? You cannot go out of town. That's my 3rd week. Like, I need you here. And he was like, no, I'm going out of town. And I was like, okay.
Was that by design on his part, you think?
No, he really was going out of town. So he's like, I need you to come in on Friday by yourself. I'll give you the videos. Like, we're going to use the app. You're going to know what to do. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll definitely be there. Definitely.
Shaking your head.
So I'm all like pumped up. I'm ready to go on Friday. And like, of course, the day rolls around Friday morning. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go. Now it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I'm going to go. Now it's 11 o'clock. And I am shaking. Like I'm physically shaking.
Wow.
Tears are just streaming down my face. I go in my pantry. I can't even make this up, Jeramie. I cannot. I grab a bag of chips. Like a little kid's like bag of chips.
Yeah.
I'm like shoveling the chips in my mouth. They were Lay's.
Doritos?
Lay's potato chips.
Barbecue?
No, just plain. Plain.
Yeah, that's good.
Salted, okay? I'm shoveling them in my mouth. I'm standing in my kitchen counter. I'm shaking and crying and I'm eating a bag of chips. And I'm like, I teach lead generation all the time. Like, what do I tell myself?
Yeah.
Or what do I tell the agents? When you feel this paralyzed, get into action. Like you have to get into action.
You were in action.
I was.
The wrong kind of action.
And I was. This is the action.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your instincts are good. I'm just telling you. You went to action.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So I was like, what do I need to do? Okay. So I put the bags of chips down. Tears are still streaming down my face. I grab my wallet, I grab my keys, and I just go. And I was like, I have to share this.
Yeah.
Because how many people, it might not be about the gym. It might be a conversation that you're not having in your life that you have to have because it's holding you back otherwise. It's lead generation. It's starting the business. It's taking the next step to live your life authentically.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I cannot allow fear to hold me back because I'm like terrified of being at the gym by myself. It's like the most irrational thing, but it's real.
It's real to you,
It's real to me.
which means it's real.
Yeah. And so, like, fear is so debilitating, and I refuse to let myself be controlled by the fear, because that's what was happening. I was controlling. I created a story. The story impacted the state of mind that I was in. My state of mind controlled my emotions, and my emotions
Rule the day.
ruled the day. And I
Yeah.
just was like, I cannot do this. But here's the thing. I'm a coach, right? I do coaching, I do training, and I'm still a human being. And I was being controlled by the human condition in that moment. And I was like, I have to share this. I want to be vulnerable. There's other women out there who feel the same. I know that they do. And there's men out there that feel the same. Maybe not about powerlifting, but where else in their life do they feel this? And I just had to share it. So I got a lot of positive feedback.
Well, what's cool about it is that how can you truly coach people if you're not
Yeah.
experiencing
Like, you
it?
have to experience it.
Yeah. I mean, getting spiritual for a minute, my relationship with Jesus is stronger because I realize he lived with these people that we deal with every day.
Yeah.
What a brilliant debater he was. What a brilliant friend he was. What an amazing friend he was.
Sure.
And what a compassionate person he was. And how smart was he? How well did he know? How well did he study? And he had a job, and he was trying to do all this stuff. And he's not trying to create the largest ministry in the world. He's just trying to do life face to face with people. And in a way, that's what you're doing. And how can you really truly help people if you don't experience things yourself? And the fact that you were able to overcome that makes you a qualified person to be able to do it. Because if you didn't beat that, no one would pay you to coach them. You know what I mean? But you did.
Yeah. And it's like I said, though, like, even though I conquered it in that moment, I still have struggles every day. And it's like I said, there's not ever true arrival, because I think even when we master something, now it's okay, we mastered this level. It's like a video game. You mastered the one level. Now we got to go up to the next level. And now there's going to be harder challenges.
And let's not forget the end boss, the big boss at the end, right? The boss battle. Have you had any boss battles recently?
No, not a boss. I don't have a boss. I'm my own boss. I battle with myself.
Well, boss battle meaning the end of the level.
Oh,
it's the boss of the
like
level.
like in Mario Brothers, how he has to like fight
every
Bowser.
level,
Yeah.
like the 8th level.
Yes.
That's the boss battle.
Okay.
You have to beat the boss battle to make it to the next level.
So my boss battle recently was with myself in the gym. And, I think the biggest struggle that I face too is like having conversations with my husband, for example, about business, or people who are familiar with entrepreneurship. And my husband, God bless him, we've been together for 19 years, married for 12.
Congratulations.
So these conversations that we're having now as me being a business owner are totally different conversations than we had 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Because our values have changed. The things that we want have changed, and the things that we need have changed, and each other too. And I can tell you, those conversations are scary. Like, money conversations are scary anyways. But now I don't have a salary. And it's much different for him to see an inconsistent funds coming in. It's one thing to say, I support you. And it's another thing for him to be like, oh, how am I going to support you?
Right.
Because it's not that I need him to financially support me. I need him to emotionally support me.
Yeah.
And like I'm making purchases, and like coming here, for example, this was a big investment.
Correct.
And so I have to be able to have that conversation with him. Like, this is how much money that's in the account, and this is an investment. Why is it an investment?
That's the thing about entrepreneurship. It's like, if all this, and I love the Robert Kiyosaki's book, Cash Flow Quadrant, because he talks about this, that a lot of people, they'll be an employee their entire life, and they'll retire, and then they become an investor, and they blow all their money.
Sure.
It's because it takes a certain level of skill set to be, to have a job, then to own a job, and then to own a business, and then to be an investor.
Yeah.
And so there's a skill set there as an entrepreneur that you're learning. I have to spend money in order to increase revenue.
Right.
Like, for example, the money that you spent and the stage that you spoke on today, and all the people that you said that came around you and appreciated you for the wisdom that you shared will probably yield a greater benefit than what you spent on this event.
I hope so.
And so that needs to be an expectation of yours. And what I love about something that I've just recently learned about mindset is this whole masculine and feminine Let's get into
Yeah.
that a little bit because that's one of my favorite conversations. I'd like to get your take on some of this stuff. So Kelly and I went to Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
especially now because and we don't have to get into like the modern things of the day, with pronouns and stuff. I'm not talking about men and women or
Right,
gender
right.
roles. I'm talking about
energy.
energy. So masculine and feminine energy, they're both required in a relationship in equal parts. And it's not always the guy that has the masculine energy
Right.
and vice versa. And that's okay. It's just how it is. But I've also recognized that how some of these energies are fascinating because like if I want to coach somebody
Sure.
and it's a dude, or if there's a lot of masculine energy there, I might coach him differently than I would somebody else. Because masculine energy, from what Tony Robbins says, grows when it's challenged. Feminine energy grows when it's acknowledged.
Yes.
So how have you experienced that or used that in your life relationship coaching?
So in my life, I think even to take it beyond the energy level being masculine and feminine, I feel like, in my opinion, is that every single human being has the need to feel significant, to feel loved, and to know that what they're doing is making a contribution, which then grows them spiritually. So to help them recognize that, like I said, I want to really provide a space where someone can feel significant, like that they know that they're showing up and that what they're doing is making a contribution and that they're going to be recognized for that, right? And then to know that they have a space to feel loved. Of course, in like a professional way, but to know that they're loved, that they're enough all of the time. And so that's something that I talked about with Kelly. Like something that really resonated with her in our coaching was you're enough the moment you showed up. The moment that you walked through the door, you were enough. No matter what you say or do or whatever expectation that you have of how the conversation is going to go, you were enough when you walked through the threshold. And it's a choice to remember that about yourself. So in coaching or in my personal life, I approach every conversation with that way, remembering not to be judgmental, remembering that this person that I'm speaking to has needs. And so it's identifying, well, what are your needs that you're, living by? What are your values? How can we make sure that you're leading based on your values and like knowing like that you have permission to do that, right?
Yes, it's the deciding part for a lot of people. And I've been doing a lot of research recently on the masculine and feminine energy of your brain.
Yes.
And so the masculine part is the deciding part,
Is the deciding.
and the feminine part is the subconscious part. And it makes sense because like Kelly and I, it's our relationship. It's like, hey, let's go on a vacation. Let's do this. We've got the money. Let's allocate it for this.
Sure.
And then goes and creates this beautiful vacation, and it's just awesome. Now, if I were to stop and nitpick her and be like, well, now, what airline are we going on and this and that, it would create frustration because I've already made the decision.
Mm.
So overthinking is bad because it interrupts the process of manifestation.
Right.
And the subconscious part of our brain is the part that makes things happen. So when we overthink things, it's like a guy just needing to shut up and just go to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, just make the decision and let the subconscious part of your brain get it done. So and I'll give you an example of this. Have you ever been on a phone call or doing something crazy and you're on your way home and you don't know how you got there?
Yeah. Yeah. Or you just, even if you're not on a phone call, I literally am driving and I'm driving for 20 minutes and I'm like, how did I get to my house?
Yeah. Because you made the decision to get home.
Yeah.
And then everything else took over.
Everything else took over. Yeah, that's so true.
Your subconscious is so powerful that it will get you where you need to go without you having to make any further decisions or overthinking it.
So why do we overthink it then? Like, why do you think business owners?
Good question.
Why do we overthink? Or just even honestly as human beings, like why do we go into this human condition of complicating every single thing when we don't have to do that?
You mentioned it earlier on, and it's fear.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of faith.
Yeah.
So when you make a decision, you have faith that you're going to make it home.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in your mind that you're going to make it home, and you make it home. And so it's the same with everything else. Once you make that decision to be that person that you want to be, and you show up present like you say that we should,
Sure.
and give ourselves, like it's a decision to give ourselves permission to be ourselves, and then show up and let everything else just happen.
Right. So then how do you as a leader let go of the need for control? Because that's, as Tony Robbins says, that's another human need that we have, is the need for control, right? So how do we let go of the need for control and not lead our life or our business in fear of losing that control?
It's such a good question. And I'm going through the process of learning all this now. And for me, control, I didn't really need much control in my business
Right.
as growing up because I gave everybody a voice. I just told everybody that, like, look, everybody has a voice here, but I've got to have the final say just because we're going to be in a situation where somebody has to make the final say, and everybody has to be okay with that because we need to be able to move on. But everybody's voice was heard.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that people have always liked about situations that I've led, is because I do believe that we're better together. I do believe that everybody has an opinion and needs to be heard, because I've been told to shut up plenty of times. I've been pointed at and someone was telling me stop talking when I was about to give them the piece of information that they needed. And I'm like, fine, you got it. No
And
problem.
this person is not in your zombie apocalypse.
No, not at all. No. Well, yes, not at all. Bait is who they would be, really.
Bait.
Yeah, the bait. That person would be the bait. Yeah, I think I got really caught up in controlling standards and making sure that the standards of the company, because the company had my name on it.
Yeah.
And I was always affirmed. I was proud when people would come up to me and say, you know what, Jeramie, the agents that you train are just phenomenal. They're great.
Yeah.
And then as my business grew and we had these crazy record years, people would come up to me and be like, hey, I had an experience with one of your agents that was kind of off character for your company. And that started to happen in 2021. We did 256 million. I got more comments that year that I wasn't running my company well.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't. We were in reaction mode. I had set a goal, a ridiculous goal, because I knew I had a team that could hit it.
Sure.
They're animals. And I didn't understand that as a leader, you have to build the infrastructure to make sure that we can hit it. Yeah. So I needed somebody like you in my organization, or somebody with those ops skills, so that we could get it done. And instead, I put so much stress on my team, it created resentment, animosity, and the illusion that I needed control, because I was so forcefully trying to manage those standards that it was not good. And I was trying to lead from a place of emotion and reaction rather than a place of peace and intelligence. And so I'm learning that the antidote for the control bug is to teach leadership.
Yeah.
If you teach leadership, you get multiplication, because then now there's a trust factor with people that now know what your standards are, what their standards are, and they can begin to communicate those. And it makes any company, like even parenting. I am now teaching leadership to my kids because I need the refreshing. I need the peace of mind to know that if I'm not around them, they're going to be okay. Because that's it. We get this much time with them. And we have to make sure that they turn out to be great humans. We think that our job is just parenting, even in leadership. We think our job is just to be a boss or to manage certain standards. But our job is to help that person have some kind of massive breakthrough to where they don't need you anymore. The true art of leadership is to get to that person where they don't need you anymore.
Yes. Yes. I feel the exact same way. I love that you bring parenting into it, because if you're listening and you feel like, well, where can I practice these leadership skills? Starting at home is the best place. And actually, I have to tell you, my husband even said to me more recently, he's like, I need you to lead me. And I was like, me? Like, his energy is very much the masculine energy. And I allow him to be more dominating in that, because I came from a background of just wanting to be a more submissive wife, not in a negative way, but to empower him. And so when he had said to me that he wanted me to lead him, I really stepped into a whole new level of leadership. I'm used to leading other people and I'm used to leading my children. I've never thought about leading my husband in ways that he has not been exposed to, like in entrepreneurship, in types of leadership, in conversations that he needs to have in corporate America. Because he works in corporate America, where many of the conversations that I have, he would probably be fired for, because it's not as open-minded, right? It's not heart-led or heart-centered. So he's also learning how to communicate more effectively because I have to lead him as well. Like I'm leading myself, I'm leading him. What a gift.
That's super great. So is that kind of how you coach people? Let's talk about your process a little bit because I expect it is. So let's say somebody, whether they're a real estate agent, a real estate investor, an entrepreneur, wanted to hire you. Walk us through your process and how you would approach helping them with whatever they've got.
Yeah. So it's really about, first of all, we want to identify the holes and the gaps in their business. So typically people come because they have an intention or they have an expectation that like, there's this huge problem. There's this rock in my shoe and we need to remove the rock. We have to remove the rock. And it's like, my job as a coach is to help them to discover how did the rock get there, right? Because there could actually be a hole in your shoe that's making more rocks
Yeah,
come
rocks are
in.
coming
So
in.
if we can remove the rock, but if you still have a hole in your shoe, we need to fix the hole. So I take them through a process of really uncovering where are all the holes and the gaps and how did they get there? That's the most important thing. Like we can't just put a Band-Aid on it. We have to look at the full picture. We have to look at the full Jeramie to know, well, how did this even begin? And then we shift to, well, what's your belief around that?
Are people taken aback by that because they think you're
Yes.
just going to teach them how to go like place ads and get more leads or
Yes.
whatever? Yeah.
People think that there is a switch or like a pill or just like a strategy. And listen, I can give you strategies like to fix all the things. There's always a strategy. There is not a lack of resources. Okay, there's not a lack of resources in any brokerage. I don't care which brokerage you're in or which business you're in. There are resources available. The biggest struggle is that the entrepreneur is not resourceful. Okay, you have to be hungry to fix yourself in order to fix your business.
Do you have to fix that on people sometimes?
Yes.
Fix the drive?
Yes, you have
A
to.
lot?
It's like, well, how did it get to this point? And it's like, well, I lost my motivation. I lost my drive. I'm not hungry anymore. Okay, you're burned out. Like you're at burnout. We have to figure out what led to that. Okay, like if you are a cars guy and you take your car to a mechanic, yeah, we can open up the hood and we can replace these parts. But if you're going to continue to drive the car the way that you are and you're not changing the oil, you're not taking care of it, in another year from now, you're going to come back with the exact same problems. We have to create change, like lasting change in the person.
Change the way you drive, right? So
Yes.
that you're not making this crazy, super hard right turn and
Yeah.
knocking your wheels out of
And then
alignment
you're
every
wondering,
time.
like, why are my wheels always like
Oh,
shredded? It's
yeah.
like, well, look what you're doing.
Yeah, right. Change
And
the driver.
right. And
Yeah.
so
It's not the car.
the ideal client is somebody who is willing to, not that they have to be comfortable doing it. Like we're going to lean into uncomfortableness. We're going to cry. We're going to explore. We're going to have hard conversations because there's a difference between being nice and kind. And my job is to be kind to you
Yeah.
and to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And so we're going, like, I'm ready to work with people who are willing to take the deep dive, to go through the journey, and to know that when we come out the other side, they're going to feel better and they're going to have a strategy that they're actually going to implement because they've made a shift. Nothing's broken inside of anybody. It's just that they're willing to expand their identity and they're willing to make a shift.
I've always been a very impatient person. Are you impatient or are you a patient person? You must be patient.
It depends. If it's with my children, I'm super impatient. And if it's with my husband, I'm also like, I told you to do this
Yes.
10 minutes ago.
Right.
And it's still not a
From your professional clients, well, what would you say?
very patient. You have
Okay.
to be patient.
You have to be patient. But are you okay being patient or do you force yourself to be patient?
I think that that's about giving them space. Like you have to give the person the space to come to the aha moment on their own. Like you can't force that. That's like a magic moment that happens. It's like a divine moment. You can't stand for that. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And so every single week when we meet, it's creating the space. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, like it's going to happen next week. Like I have full faith that it will happen. But just like even for myself, I want to have like an aha immediately for myself. Like I'll say like, okay, what's triggering me right now? I have no idea. Like, why did I break down about the gym? I honestly cannot say, like, why I was having a mental breakdown. It will take me reflecting on that for a while longer to truly understand what was the trigger and can I identify it and then release it. So even for myself, like, it takes time. That's the process of surrendering.
It truly is. I always realized that I'm a good teacher, but maybe not the best coach, because I get really impatient with the person hurting. I don't like to see people hurt.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, that's the beauty of being a third party, is you can look into somebody. I'm more of a surgeon than a coach. And after a little bit of conversation, I can be like, well, there it is.
Yeah.
They don't know that I see it yet. I'm just going to slowly ask questions, and I'm just going to slowly reach for it. And I got it. And we're going to take it out, and you're going to look at it for a minute,
Yeah.
and then we're just going to toss it away. That's a very uncomfortable process because I don't ask permission, and sometimes I failed miserably at it, and have ruined relationships,
Yeah.
honestly. But it's like, just stop being this way and start being this way.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that's the way I want people to talk to me. But after talking to like Peter Pacetto and a lot of, a lot of other people, it's like, hey, can I get permission to be direct with you?
Yeah.
And then do you feel like you have to do that, or do you just kind of secretly go in and fix people?
Sometimes I ask permission, like, do I have permission to be honest with you right now?
Yeah.
Do I have permission to like get real right now? Like sometimes you do have to ask permission, but a lot of my clients have given me permission up front because they're willing to make the change. They're in so much pain. It's impacting their personal life. Like it's impacting their marriage or their relationship with their kids or their spiritual relationship or their religious relationship. Like they're in pain already. And they come to me and say, like, I need to change. Like, I have to change. I'm at a point where if I don't do something, like I'm losing my wife or I'm losing my husband. Like, this cannot be like this anymore, or I hate myself. And it's like,
It's like
okay.
therapy. It's not even really coaching, kind of.
Well, and see, here's the thing. Like, I feel like so many of us are going through these secret battles and we keep them secret because we have been conditioned, again, to believe that vulnerability is weakness. Vulnerability is strength. And like Brene Brown says, brave leadership is what is needed in today's society. We have to be brave and have conversations about where we're struggling because we're all struggling. We are all, even if we're all working like on our mindset or on our health or on our leadership skills, we're still struggling with something.
I think what you're talking about is a myth. I think you're talking about a world that I hope will exist. I think what you're talking about is a world where we can actually do that, but we don't, because I've tried to lead that way many times. And as a man, as a leader, society doesn't like it.
No, it doesn't.
And I have been a leader who has gone through a lot recently. Nobody likes it. They see blood in the water. They make decisions based on that. No one comes rushing to your aid. No one says, what's going on? No, they just say, he's not good enough anymore. As a man, your spouse can get afraid by your constant figuring of things out. And when you're in a season of a ridiculous amount of things that are surrounding you, teaching you lessons, and you can't even get over the first 3 lessons and then 7 more of you, any spouse in the world will surround you and help you and coach you until they get to the point where you need a therapist. You need someone to help you. Like, seriously, I think therapy would save a lot of marriages because your spouse cannot be your therapist.
Right.
They can be for a while.
They can't.
They know you probably better than anybody else, but it's not their job.
No.
It's not their job. And as a boss, it's not your job to necessarily be a coach to people, which is why I think I'm so glad to know you, because I can send somebody like you, who I trust, who I think is incredibly skillful and aware and would know what my needs are and know what the other person's are and figure all that out.
Yeah.
And it takes the pressure off of me. It takes the pressure off of that other person's. You're like this emotional mediator, because a lot of times, like even like me and my admin, Beth, who I know listens to these, I had to come up to her the other day. And she came up to me and she said, hey, I just need to know that we're okay.
Mm.
And because you acted this way and everything, it created some uncertainty in her. And I just thought, wow, I wasn't even thinking that what I did. In fact, I was trying to act the opposite way.
Right, right.
And so I just told her, I said, hey, I'm just going to tell you now, we're always okay. It's either me or something I'm going through. I said, trust the fact that I will communicate with you if I need to about something. And I always do. And we have conversations that aren't always comfortable.
Yeah.
But those uncomfortable conversations give her the freedom to know that when we're not having uncomfortable conversations, if I'm acting a certain way, everything's okay.
Yeah, but like, let's just take a moment to acknowledge the fact that Beth was able to come to you with something that she had a fear or uncertainty around, because so many relationships, people don't say anything because they're so afraid of retaliation, or I mean, there's just a million reasons why they could be afraid. But the fact that you created a space for her to feel comfortable enough to come to you and share an uncertainty that she was having. And then the second point is that you said to her, like, we're always okay. And you acknowledged that it's not you, Beth. Like, it might be something that belongs to me. It might be something that I'm going through. And so, like, just taking the responsibility for that is incredible, because it's very rare. It's very rare that an admin can go to their leader and say, this happened and I want to talk to you about it. That's the first thing. And then,
That's maybe the way to the perfect world. Communication might be
yes.
the way to vulnerability, or at least a safe level of vulnerability. I think vulnerability is fashionable right now because it is so necessary. And
Mhm.
and it's because I think we're on this quest for authenticity now that AI and everything else is like coming up. I don't know. Do you think we'll ever get there, in this?
I think right now, like, it kind of reminds me of how, like, authentic was like a very trendy word. I think it still is. Like, tribe, authentic, vulnerability, they are trendy words, but yet it's also real. Like, those words stem from somewhere
Yeah.
and they are real. And I was just talking about this earlier. Like, there's over 6 billion people in the world, right? All of us experience the same emotions, and yet we deal with them in a secret way. And how much different could our world look if we could share with each other what we're going through? And
So stop keeping your secret secret.
well, maybe some of them need to be kept secret, but in leadership,
Yeah.
like, you don't have to share every single thing, but
Yeah.
I really do believe that people want to know, where are you failing? Like, what are you failing at right now that you're willing to share, because you know that other leaders are probably going through the same thing, or other agents, moms, dads, like, we're all connected. And we forget that. We forget that we are all energetically connected, and our energy, it gravitates. It's a vibration that goes to other people. And we have to be able to talk about our struggles, and especially as a leader.
We do. And so for that, I recommend masterminds. So this year is the first year I've ever really joined a mastermind outside of EXP. I mean,
Right.
EXP has a built-in mastermind structure,
Community, yeah.
which has been awesome because I always felt like I never had anybody to go to. That's actually how I met Carrie, is I hired her as a coach. And I
Yeah.
was like, coaches are the first thing that you need, right? You got to have a coach because you got to pay somebody who has been through what you're about to go through.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the next thing is masterminds. You actually pay for these masterminds. You got to pick the right one. There's a lot of bad ones out there.
There are, yeah.
But this last mastermind that I was at in Sarasota, it's one of the guys got, like, there's times when everybody gets up to speak, they're on the main stage. And this guy took his time to get up on the main stage, not to talk about his business,
Right.
but to talk about his marriage, because
I think Kelly told me about this, and she was really impressed.
he knew he would be supported.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not in the moment, I mean, obviously it was like, okay, well, let's talk about this guy's marriage. This was unexpected, but it wasn't uncomfortable.
Right.
Everybody in the room had compassion.
Sure.
And afterwards, he was supported by so many people because they kind of knew what he needed. And that's being vulnerable.
Yeah.
But
But it's also sharing, like, what do you need? Like, what if we were able to communicate with our staff, with our employees, with our teams, actually what we needed from them, and how we want them to communicate with us, how we want them to lead. Like, we have to be able to share these things. And if you could just tell like somebody, this is what I need from you, and this is how I need you to show up. Like, I think it would just solve a lot of issues and a lot of uncertainty.
I think it would. Are you uncertain about what's next for you, or do you know what's next for you?
Honestly, Jeramie, I'm going to be vulnerable. I don't always know what's next. Like, I see the end result and I don't get caught up in every single stepping stone that's going to lead me to the mountain. I see the mountain. I know I'm going in the right direction, but I can't be addicted to my path.
Yeah.
I have to know that there are multiple paths to get to the top. And so I have to, there's some uncertainty there, like, and there's some fear, like, well, what if I don't do the right thing? Listen, if I don't do the right thing, I'm going to know very quickly that I'm not doing the right thing. Like, intuitively, I'm going to know this is not the right thing. And then I just pivot.
Yeah, turn the plumbing on. If there's a leak, you'll find it fast.
Oh, yes. That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, so you know the mountain you're headed towards.
Yes.
Do you want to say what it is or no?
So I see myself like so coaching and training is really my jam, and I love doing that. I don't know
who specifically, just so people know.
Yeah, so entrepreneurs, real estate agents who are looking to hire admin. If you've already hired an admin and you really need support with training them, coaching them, helping them to really own their role, and then as you as a leader, how are you communicating with them?
Maybe even some coaching with the leader, the founder,
Always.
and the force multiplier.
Always the founder and the force multiplier together. We have to be able to create. It's kind of like a yin and a yang. You have to coach both pieces for them to fit together. So coaching both together is great. Or an entrepreneur who's like, if you're just starting out in real estate and you need to know like the foundational skills to start out with, or what, like there's so many different avenues. Everybody calls them like shiny objects. And it's easy to get distracted. If you need help with focusing and understanding, like how do you control your focus? That's also something that I just am so passionate about. Getting you, like, what are the top 5 things you need to be focused on right now in your business?
Yeah. And it's so nice to see you in person. It was really just a highlight for me.
Thank you.
Really, because you've been a blessing to my family. And it's just nice to see you, give you a hug, and to know that you're a real human being.
Thank you.
And I wish the best for you as you're tackling the mountain. And I hope you have plenty of people to exercise with. And if not, who cares? Because it's not even a big deal anyway, right?
Right.
I mean, if you're going to do it by yourself, then...
Yeah, now I've gone to the gym by myself, so I know there's a lot of things we can do on our own. We don't give ourselves enough credit.
Yeah.
And confidence comes when we take action, when we learn the process and we repeat it over and over again, and we become competent in what we're doing. And then you're building the skills and you're building the confidence. Like, I'm not confident all the time. People think that I am because I work really hard at showing up and just taking action and then learning from everything. Like, I just want to learn as much as I can.
You put a guitar in some people's hands and they get nervous.
Yeah. Or you can make it fun.
Yeah. You can. That's a great
way to I'm going to play the guitar and it's going to sound terrible to you. But for me, we're just going to make it fun. Like, that sounds like a good
So, and how do you learn to play the guitar?
I would YouTube it.
Yeah, but you have to learn at some point by playing the guitar.
Playing it, yeah.
You learn the guitar by playing the guitar.
Yeah. Or we could chat GBT it and
just find me a guitar.
How do you play the guitar?
Something to play.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. It's been a great.
Oh yeah, thank you. My goodness.
Cheers. Well, a big thank you for listening to the end of our podcast. I know your time is valuable, and I hope you got a few takeaways that are going to help you get a greater return on that time. I know you will. And if you did enjoy it, I'd sure appreciate a share or a comment. Feel free to subscribe for instant access to new episodes and offers. There's also a ton of free content and ways to learn more and engage more at WorleyRealEstateNetwork.com. Until then, we'll continue to bring you recipes for success and real stories from real people who, like you, are living out your divine purpose. And hey, God loves you. No matter what happens, don't give up.